Hello everyone. In the previous session, we learned about the stages of funding for early stage startups, the types of investors at each stage, the pitfalls that they tend to fall into, and most importantly, what they should raise money for. Raising funds is not the purpose, but raising funds to achieve your goals is the real purpose. Fundraising tends to be a hot topic, so it tends to become the goal. If you can solve a customer's big problem, you will definitely be able to raise funds in an advantageous way, so don't lose sight of this point. Now, from this session, I will explain in more detail about questions from investors. That is, what they want to know about your startup. Before that, however, let us check the answers to the mini quiz in the previous session. First, the answer to question 1. What are the 3 stages in the early stage startup financing cycle? They are bootstrap, seed, and Series A. Next, the answers to question 2. What are the 4 types of investors? They are angel, incubator or accelerator, venture capital, and corporate venture capital. And the answers to question 3. What is the purpose of raising seed capital? It is to reach product market fits. Please be clear when and for what purpose you need funds for. Now, let us move on to today's main topic, questions from investors. There are 9 main topics for questions asked by investors. I will explain them in 3 parts. In this session, I will explain the questions about the market, team, and about yourself. These questions are often asked when raising funds at the very early stages, which is before the seed round. The investors will be people like angels or incubators. I will explain them in order. First, questions about the market. Why did you choose this market to work on? This question is to find out how you discovered the problem that you are addressing. Therefore, instead of just sharing things that everyone knows, such as aging population is a big problem in developed countries, or Japan is facing a serious labor shortage in the logistics industry due to population decline, you should tell your own story in your answer. Many founders start their businesses because of problems that they have faced or witnessed themselves. Rather than just talking about the attractiveness of the market based on numbers, please explain it with your passion and explain your own experiences. For example, Airbnb's founder decided to rent out his loft as a place to stay because he couldn't afford to pay the rents for his apartment during the recession. However, he was not comfortable posting information about his home on the online bulletin board, which was the mainstream at that time. Based on this experience, he came up with the idea of creating a platform which is safe and convenient for everyone like him. The point is, tell the real stories like this. What is the key growth driver of this market? Startups need to address a huge market, but it should not be big now, but it needs to be a growing market. Therefore, this question is to find out whether you have the ability to foresee the future, or at least think about growth potential logically. Growth drivers will vary depending on the business that you are working on, including politics, economy, society, and technological innovation. For example, in the case of Airbnb, it was started in the wake of the recession during the Lehman shock. During and after this recession, there has been a significant increase in the number of people who want to travel as if they were living like locals, and also those who want to earn side income. These changes in society have become a growth driver. So, please explain the unique drivers of the market that you are working on. What do you think is the growth rate of this market in 5 to 10 years? This is similar to the previous question, but please answer with some specific numbers. There should be highly reliable data on the macro growth rate of the entire market that you are working on, such as various statistical information and other public information. This is about the TAM part of the TAM SAM SOM framework. This number should also be included in your pitch deck, so be prepared to answer it. How attractive is your market? This question is also similar to the previous one, but for this question, please explain logically the attractiveness of the market that you have selected, including perspectives other than the growth potential of the market. In addition to the market size and growth drivers, you should touch on a timing perspective, such as the fact that potential competitors have not yet entered, or that regulations are expected to be abolished. How much money would you be able to make in 1 year or in 5 years? Remember the TAM SAM SOM framework. Over here, you are asked about the SOM, about the money you would be able to make in a year. The investor intends to determine whether you are someone who can move the business forward quickly. Therefore, you might answer like, we have just verified the needs of our initial customers using a mockup. So, we are creating a beta version and pitching to 10 potential customers. We are likely to receive ROIs from 2 of them. So our sales in the first year will be around $200,000. On the other hand, about 5 years from now, it is expected that a company will grow rapidly after product market fit. So please talk about the big numbers using your own logic. Next is a question about the team, especially for very early stage startups. Investment decisions are often made based on the team. Because no matter how attractive the market or the business plan is, if you can't implement it, it is completely meaningless. Now, let us take a look at specific questions. How did your team meet? Generally, it is extremely difficult for people who have just met each other to form a team and start and grow a business. The growth process of a startup is not always fun. So, the purpose of this question is to find out if you've known each other for some time, whether it was at school, work, or activities such as volunteering, and if you have accomplished something together. Therefore, your answer will be something like, we met in a club at university and we ran a project together. Or, we were co-workers from a previous workplace and we started a project together. Who in your team does what? This question is to find out if the team members have the capability to implement and not just talk. Therefore, you need to explain who is the person responsible for the entire business and who is responsible for the product, and what kind of experience makes them suitable for the role. What domain of expertise do you or your co-founder have? This is a question to find out how much experience you and your team members have in the business that you are working on. Especially in B2B businesses, it is a big plus for the founders to be knowledgeable about the industry. For example, although not impossible, it would be extremely difficult for a team of people with zero sales experience to successfully run a business like Salesforce. Please note, what investors want to know is the domain of expertise and the industry networks which are relevant to your business. They are not interested in knowing if the university you graduated from or the company you worked for is famous. Therefore, unless you have a patent in some field or a well-known person in the field, there is no point in saying that I was from Google or I graduated from Harvard. Please focus on explaining whether your experience is suitable for this business. What hurdles are you anticipating? There are many difficulties in startups, so what investors want to know from a team perspective is, can this team execute? For example, if you are all students at the time of founding the company, explain that you are determined to commit to this startup after graduation. And if the founding team does not have an engineer, it would be a good idea to explain that there are countermeasures for anticipated difficulties, such as we have asked through our own network, and an engineer will be joining soon. How do we know if your team will stick together? This is a question to judge whether you can not only start a business, but also go all the way to achieving your goals. Therefore, give examples of how you've worked together on a difficult task or activity and explain that you eventually succeeded. Again, I will use Airbnb as an example. They launched several services, such as a roommate matching service and an accommodation service for attendees of international conferences. But all of them failed, and they ended up in debt. In an effort to pay off that debt, they asked the help of a senior at art school. With his help, they started selling cereal by printing original packaging for President Obama, who was running for a US presidency campaign at that time. This cereal business was profitable, and they were able to pay off their debt. But what the investor liked the most was the perseverance and tenacity. They did not mind selling cereal to make money and start what they really wanted. Eventually, they were able to receive investment and start the Airbnb business. I'm sure you too have stories of overcoming difficulties. By talking about this in detail, you will be able to convince investors that you will stick together and follow through. Finally, about yourself. In the early stages of a startup, investors invest in people. The evaluation criteria will be the caliber of an entrepreneur, except for serial entrepreneurs who have experience in starting and exiting businesses. The main qualities are mental toughness, learning ability, flexibility, logical thinking, and follow through. Therefore, the questions asked about founders are aimed at whether they possess these qualities. Let us look at them in order. What's the most impressive thing that you have done? This is a question to find out your follow through. Your answer would be, I started a new business at my previous job at Amazon, or I climbed a mountain in the Himalayas. Anything is fine as long as you can share that you overcame some big difficulty and achieved your goal. Being a startup founder is not always fun. Rather, it is full of challenges. Therefore, investors want to judge whether you can overcome these challenges and achieve your goals. What's the biggest mistake that you have made? This is a question to find out about your learning ability. Everyone makes mistakes, but not everyone can learn from it. Everyone must have overcome some kind of mistake or setback. So please explain what you learned from that mistake and what you achieved based on learning from the big mistake that you have made. What's the worst thing that has happened to you? This is a question to find out about your mental strength. Don't just describe the worst thing that happened. Focus on how you recovered. For example, the worst thing that could have happened to the founder of Airbnb was that no matter what they tried, nothing worked out and they ended up in debt. The great thing about them is that they didn't give up. Instead, they asked for help from their seniors at school and sold the cereal to pay off their debt. Selling cereal was not what they wanted to do, but as startup founders, the experience of starting a business on their own and making a profit in the worst of situations is highly commendable. They would have had the option of giving up everything and get a job to become a salaried worker. Please explain how you recovered from the worst thing that happened, and how you recovered and how you think you can apply what you have learned to your startup. Tell us about something surprising that you have done. This is a question to find out about your personality. Any unexpected hobbies are fine, so just explain what you do outside of work. What made you start this business? This is a question to find out about your vision as a founder. For example, the co-founder of Grab, a Southeast Asian ride-sharing company, came across ride-sharing businesses while studying in the United States. She is originally from Malaysia, where it is dangerous for women to ride alone in a taxi due to security concerns. She wanted to popularize this safe transportation method in developing countries such as Malaysia. Out of this desire, she co-founded Grab with a classmate from business school. You must have your own story, so please explain your vision and not just marketability. If you just want to make money, you can find a job at any big company. There must be motivation that led you to start your own business. So please share your real story. Please review this video lecture on your own and prepare your answers to all of these questions. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.